In this video, I'm going to be doing an overview of the Casio DW-5600E-1V, one of the original models of G-Shock. This one dates back to 1987, however this specific unit is one that I've only had for about 5 months now, and I've really come to enjoy it. So, of course with the G-Shock, we know we're going to have a fairly durable, fairly resistant watch. We have 200 meters of water resistance, a mineral crystal, and a case that kind of comes up to protect that mineral crystal. We have little springs inside of the case itself to help to kind of pad the module. So if it takes shock damage, the module actually has a little bit of play in there, so the force kind of gets transmitted through the springs rather than directly into the module. Normally you'd have a resin band here on the Casio G-Shock. I've replaced it with a NATO, which has compromised the durability a teeny bit, as the resin band has little notches in it that also act to help the watch fall on the back there where there's more durability rather than to land on the crystal, because even though we have a recessed crystal and it's more durable crystal, that's still a weaker point than the back of the watch. Function-wise, we don't have a ton, but they're all ones you're going to use. Of course, we have the current time, which you can change between 24-hour time and 12-hour time. I prefer 24-hour time. We have the day of the week there, we have the month, and we have the current date. Now, if I hold in the adjust pusher here, we can set the time, which we're not going to modify, but I wanted to show that we do have a perpetual calendar. So you can see I can change the year there, which is very, very nice because that means you don't have to worry about setting the date at the rollover at the start of the next month. Something that's really enjoyable to have. If we hit the mode pusher here, we can cycle to our single alarm, we can cycle to our single countdown timer, we can cycle to our single stopwatch, which you can do splits on, which is something that can be helpful. So if I press here on the adjust, a little button or a little read up comes there on the display. It's a split. We can do splits, which is very nice to have. And then, of course, we're back to the date, or the date, the time, just a regular splash display. If I kill the lights here, we can see that we have a very, very good backlight. Now, it says illuminator. However, Casio's naming convention is kind of all over the place. I've seen some watches that say illuminator and they've got a single amber LED. I've seen some that say electroluminescence and they're the same backlight we have here. I believe that the naming convention changed sometime in the 90s, and that's why it's kind of a weird holdover. But the backlight in this watch is good, and that's the important thing. Size-wise, this isn't small, but it's not massive either. About a 43mm wide case and about 14mm thick. Of course, with a double-pass NATO strap, it's going to be a little bit thicker. And then if I throw it on my wrist here, which will back away for a second from the camera, I can show that it actually wears fairly well, even on a fairly beefy, fairly thick NATO strap. As we come back in, we can see that it's fairly good on my 7¼ inch wrist. I wear my watches fairly tight and I really dig it. This one's been a constant companion to the gym and for a lot of shooting trips. I've worn it in the cold, I've worn it in the warm, I've worn it in a whole myriad of conditions, and it's held up really, really well. The fact that Casio has been able to make the same watch since 1987 without really any changes, and that it's still an incredibly popular watch, really goes to show how good one of these old original G-Shocks are. I really dig it, and I'll be doing a full review at some point, mostly in the written form, but I'll have more content on the DW-5600 going forward. And of course, I didn't mention this, but modding these isn't the hardest thing to do. The actual outer part of the case comes off. It's just a rubber housing. Keeping it on there, of course, for durability, but I swapped from the regular band to a 3D printed adapter for that NATO there. I'll link the vendor down on Etsy. I've got no financial relationship with this fella, but he does good work, so I can't complain about that. I'll link my budget Casio article down below once it's live, and I appreciate you watching. Take care.